What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Hopefully everyone is doing well, staying safe, healthy. If you had to take a COVID test, hopefully you have tested negative. If you did test positive, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery with no long COVID issues. And if you're dealing with some other virus, I hope you have a full and speedy recovery from that as well. It is time now for the Friday edition of the Virus Update for Friday, December 13th, 2024. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. You clicked onto the channel that updates you on all the viruses that can make us sick. There's a lot of viruses out there, and with the weather turning colder here in the U.S., there's a lot more viruses spreading right now than there were just a few months ago. So you need to be informed with what's going on with these viruses. If you're new, subscribe down below. If you like this video, give this video a thumbs up. The more people that give this a thumbs up and comment down below, the more YouTube's going to push this content throughout the algorithm. So do those things. And of course, share this video with anyone you know and hit that notification bell. We have just a few news stories today. Then we're going to take a look at some daily data. We're going to take a look at some weekly CDC data. Some interesting things that we have to take a look at. Yeah, well, interesting in not a good way. Things are trending wrong in a hurry in the United States. I mean, things are, yep. Remember we had that law? The law has ended. It's clearly gone now. And we do have some state data to take a look at as well. Going to try and make this be maybe a 13 to 15 minute video today. We'll see how that goes. Starting off here with an update on Mariah Carey. Remember yesterday I told you that she is dealing with flu. You know, All I Want for Christmas Is You is her hit single, but right now she's singing All I Want for Christmas is to get rid of flu, because she's dealing with the flu right now. They're saying illness, but the point is 2 more concerts have now been canceled as a result. I mean, you can't just recover from flu that quickly. Indicators show U.S. flu and COVID activity is rising. Flu activity continues to rise, and COVID-19 indicators are also starting to rise from very low levels. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said today, this is from CIDRAP, and yes, things are starting to rise in the United States, and unfortunately, we are seeing a significant rise. We are seeing a significant week-to-week rise in COVID. And check this out. This is not good whatsoever. Mike Horger is reporting that today is the sharpest one-week relative increase in COVID transmission, 54%, since the BA.1 surge in 2021, December of 2021. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're starting off from very low levels, but the size of the increase this week is the biggest one-week increase that we have seen since December of 2021. That's a pretty big increase for 1 week. It's not a good sign whatsoever. And taking a look here, you can see the national level is in black. You can see that had a significant increase. Look at the Midwest. The Midwest went from minimal straight on up to moderate levels. I mean, they're already halfway through the ranks at moderate levels. That's not good. And we can see here the national level is still low. The West is now up to low, and the South is low. This is not showing a rise for the Northeast. I don't understand why, because Wastewater scan has been showing a rise, so I would think that something in between what this shows and what Wastewater scan shows is probably actually what's happening. Other dashboards do show there being a rise in the Northeast, and there are individual wastewater sites that definitely say things are rising. Here in Pennsylvania, which is considered part of the Northeast, there is a rise at a number of wastewater sites for COVID at this time. In England, it's flu that's a problem, and there's a real problem with flu. The National Guardian is saying NHS warns of tidal wave of flu as hospital cases rise 70% in England. You're probably thinking, oh, well, what's it 70%? No, this is actually a big number. This is actually a really bad number. An average of 1,861 flu patients were in the hospital in England each day last week, including 66 in critical care beds. NHS figures show this is up from 1,099 patients the previous week. 39 were in when 39 were in critical care beds. So this is a significant 1 week increase for England. And someone's probably saying, well, it's normal, it's seasonal flu. It is, but Look how big that rise just was. And it is also more than 4 times the figure at this point last year. Remember what we said before. I've said it. A lot of people have posted. A lot of doctors, immunologists, a lot of people who study this stuff have said multiple COVID infections are bad for your immune system. It wears down your immune system. When some other virus comes around to you after you've had multiple infections, if you're unlucky and your immune system is damaged, you're going to have a more severe case of another virus. And that is clearly what is happening in England. And plus, just overall, just flu just is bad this year in England right now. All right, moving on. Daily reminder, datareport.info is my site. If you're looking to do some research, maybe a COVID study or something else, maybe it's someone who has had COVID. I have an archive for that as well. Datareport.info is the place to go check that out. Speaking of the England and the UK, their weekly COVID cases were 1,081, deaths were 122, and healthcare. Number of patients admitted was 1,085. Admissions were the only number that went up. They went up by 16 over in the UK this week. Taking a look at air qualities across the United States, there are still a few areas, but not a lot of areas. Generally, along that I-70 corridor, we are seeing some problems today for air qualities, and there are still some air qualities that are a problem on the West Coast as well, north of Los Angeles today, yes. And part of this is there's a big storm system going through there, so that may be messing up some of this data as well. I do have another place where I talk about climate and weather. It is Climate Data Report. That is my other channel here on YouTube. I did just post today's video on the potential for winter weather this weekend. There's going to be winter weather in the West Coast. There's going to be an ice storm in Iowa tonight into tomorrow, and maybe some surprise snow in central Pennsylvania on Sunday afternoon. Taking a look at Philadelphia, is this the correct number? All right, I already did have it up there. 753 EMS incidents were reported in Philadelphia on Thursday. Doing a live look-in at EMS calls in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, which is the next county west of Philadelphia. And wow, take a look at this. There's a lot of head injury calls, a lot of calls in general. 19 calls, is that what yeah, 19 calls right now. Respiratory emergency is showing up 1, 2, 3, 4 times, so that's not good. Hopefully better news in Chester County. And no, not. A lot of calls there, a lot of calls for falls right now, but sick person. You're only seeing one right now. I saw earlier there were like 4 or 5 at once. I've been seeing a ton of calls for sick person. And sometimes that could be miscellaneous, because I do listen to dispatch sometimes, but other times it can be, hey, they got a fever, they're sick, they got the flu, they got COVID, or it can be anything. So, not good to see that. Taking a look at hospital capacity in Pennsylvania, again, I always express caution with this. Not all the hospitals report, and sometimes these ones that are green don't even update. You'll click on it, and the updates are sometimes outdated, but we do see there are some yellow hospitals today, though be it not as many, which is some good news. Hopefully it stays like that. But I got a feeling next week on Monday it's going to be pretty busy at the hospitals once again, but hey, we'll take the good news when we can get it. Pennsylvania, you do see that there are some wastewater sites for COVID that are increasing, and one in Indiana County, Pennsylvania, that is reporting a large increase for COVID at this time. The viral activity level for COVID up in Canada today comes in at moderate. Flu A is moderate. Flu B is low. RSV comes in at moderate at this time. The positivity rate for COVID in the United States at Walgreens is 15.2% at this time. So that is up by 1.9% from last week's number of 13.3%, and testing was over 5,000 this week. All right, wanted to take a quick look at wastewater scan, and we can see here the national COVID level on wastewater scan. It's showing up as high now. So it is rising, and we can see on the chart here it's been rising. RSV has been rapidly rising at this point, and it's actually starting to go up even faster. That is listed at high. Norovirus is listed at high. Influenza A and Influenza B are still listed at low at this time. HMPV is also listed as low at this time as well. The Midwest has been continuously rising for COVID. RSV is still low, but it is rising pretty quickly. Influenza A is rising, and influenza B is really low. Norovirus has been really high at this time in that area. In the Northeast, we still have this big wonky upward movement. Take that out. Overall, the Northeast is still rising, which is why I said this dashboard disagrees with what the CDC said. RSV is really high right now in the Northeast region of the United States. Influenza A is low but rising, and influenza B is low at this time. HMPV is low. Norovirus, wow, really rising, and everything else not much of an issue at this time. In the South, at this time, we do note that COVID is kind of flattened a little bit. RSV looks like it may have peaked and maybe is starting to drop. Influenza A, influenza B, dropping at this time. HMPV is dropping, and I should note, influenza A, that is a wonky movement at the end, so we'll have to see if that gets corrected. Norovirus overall has been rising, then a wonky movement came in at the end. In the West, we do note that COVID levels, they're starting to rise slightly. RSV is rapidly rising and already listed at high. Influenza A is high but has dropped a little bit. Influenza B is low at this time. HMPV is low, and norovirus is rising and at high levels at this time. Taking a look at the CDC here, and I do need to refresh this because this may be different than what I reported on at the beginning of the this video when we were doing the news segments. And here we go. We do note that over here it shows wastewater. It's not really rising much. So this is different, and I do believe this may in fact be outdated data. Yeah, it's showing 11-30. This is outdated data, so we're not going to even continue looking at this. Taking a look at what's going on with hospital emergency department visits, people, people diagnosed with COVID showing up at the hospital. It's just ever so slightly rising at this time. Not seeing a big increase for that just yet. If we were to see one, it may be in the coming weeks, since wastewater now is just really starting to pick up the pace. This is usually a lagging indicator. Taking a look at what is going on with epidemic status, and well, the majority of the East is either growing or likely growing at this time. Just a couple states in the East. Not changing. The West Coast, though, we do have Arizona that is declining at this time. Good news there. I hope it lasts. And we do see that likely growing has now become a thing in Oregon, in Idaho, and in Utah. You are growing at this time. Texas and Louisiana are likely growing, and Minnesota is growing at this time. Moving down to flu, well, not much to be said about this. Influenza is pretty much growing in almost the entire United States at this time. There's just a few states that are either not changing or not reporting, and that is Alaska, Arizona, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, Missouri, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Everywhere else is growing at this time. So influenza is really taking off at this point. And we just saw what's happening over in England. And sometimes for certain viruses, we do follow England. So if England means anything, and this map means anything, things are quickly starting to get bad for influenza at this time. And influenza A, by the way, is the virus that is leading the way from what I have read. Taking a look at the influenza-like illness activity map, and we can see here that high levels, almost very high levels now in Washington, D.C. Louisiana is coming in at high levels, and high levels in New Jersey, high levels in Arizona, California, and Oregon at this time. Moderate levels in Georgia, Tennessee, and Kansas, and we do have moderate levels in South Carolina, in Alabama, Mississippi, Indiana, Utah, and Idaho, and then everything else is either low or minimal at this time. And am I missing one? Yes, Alaska is also coming in at moderate levels, and it looks like New York City is also coming in at moderate levels at this time. So things are starting to heat up on this map, and I suspect this map is going to fill in even more as time goes on. In New Jersey, we are not seeing much in the way of issues, all except for one hospital is reporting normal at this time. In New York State, 892 new cases were added, and hospitalizations today are reported to be 507, with 57 people in the ICU at this time. All right, it is that time of day where we pause and take a look at some data from CJS 83172, and he gave us some new numbers yesterday. As always, I thank him for giving us this data. Florida, Daily numbers yesterday: 664 new cases and 11 new deaths. New Jersey reports 2 days, as they didn't report on Wednesday, 1,236 new cases and 2 new deaths. New York daily was 957 yesterday. Puerto Rico daily 127 new cases. Colorado weekly 317 new positive tests, a test case positivity rate of 6.9%, and 7 CDC reported deaths. Connecticut weekly 379 new cases and 5 CDC reported deaths. Georgia reports 802 new cases and 3 new deaths, and 44,617 total state reported deaths since this all started. Wow, that's quite a few. Kentucky, 972 new positive tests, 20 CDC reported deaths. Massachusetts, 1,383 new cases and 21 new deaths. Minnesota, this is a weekly update, 1,615 new cases and 13 new deaths. North Carolina weekly update, 424 new hospital visits and 22 CDC reported deaths. New Mexico, 1,062 new cases and 13 CDC reported deaths. Ohio, as mentioned late in the video, weekly 3,812 new cases and 16 new deaths. We did talk about that yesterday. I showed you the Ohio dashboard. Oklahoma weekly update yesterday. 61 new state reported hospitalizations and 10 CDC reported deaths. Real quickly, getting back to New Mexico, I am going to make a note to myself that I talk about wastewater in New Mexico over the weekend. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Sunday that we do a weekend virus update, but whenever it is that I do that, I will make sure that I include New Mexico wastewater in that. Utah weekly update: 588 people added to their living with COVID tab and 3 new deaths. Vermont weekly, 110 new cases and 4 new deaths. Alrighty, folks, I think that's where we're going to end the virus update for today. We'll take a look at California over the weekend. Again, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Sunday that has the next update. I'm undecided on that. But if you enjoyed this update, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new down below. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with anyone you know. And leave your comments down below. I will see you all again next time. Until I see you again next time, stay safe, everyone, and have a fantastic Friday afternoon. Thanks for watching.